last night the Sixers seemingly had that game won in multiple different ways. The fact that they were leading heavily late and then a 10-0 run, the fact that they got a steal late in the game and had a chance to really put it away, the fact that they missed a three, had a rebound come down, had plenty of time to shoot it, and just heaved one up from half court for some reason, and yet still somehow came out of that game with a loss. They did so without their 7'2" big man Joel Embiid scoring a point. How is that even possible? Marc Jackson, NBC Sports Philadelphia, pre- and post-game analyst, joins us now on the Boardwalk Honda hotline. Mark, how does Joel Embiid, I know 0 for 11, it's not from lack of shooting, but I know Toronto employed a pretty strong double-team defense at him, but is there some things they could have done differently with him last night?
You know, I would have liked to see Joel continue to get double-teamed from the post, because what I mean by that is, he was saying why. When you get double-teamed from the post, that means someone's open. So the reason why Toronto kept the tactic up all game is because when Joel got doubled, when he found the open guy or swung the ball, they didn't get buckets off of that. So in that case, if I'm Toronto, I'm never going to stop double teaming. What's very important to realize is when them double teams come, when Joel kicks it off, sometimes they got to repost and get the ball back to him. And I think they went away from that. You know, I really think Joel is capable of scoring against any and everyone. I just believe that they went away from it.
Yeah, it seemed that, they doubled him almost every single time he touched the ball last night, and at some point it just felt like the Sixers decided, all right, if that's what you're going to do, we're kind of almost going to take him out of the offense, right?
Exactly. You know, and that's Toronto's job. Toronto's job is to take the ball out of the best player's hand of the other team, force somebody else to beat you. Josh Richards had a very good game. Tobias had a pretty good game. Al Horford, he was sustainable, but I think it's very important to realize, like, even though they're doubling you still got to make adjustments to find a way to benefit your ball club. And I feel there's opportunities that they missed yesterday, the Sixers.
Yeah, Mark, and I want to go back to the point that you brought up here a minute ago with just going to the post. And if Embiid doesn't want to do it, because, first of all, before it really got ugly in that game, I watched that game from start to finish, and Embiid just looked absolutely gassed. And the load management in the third game in 4 nights, that's a whole different conversation that maybe we can touch on in a minute. But if I'm Brett Brown and I see Toronto doubling at the rate and quickness that they're attempting to double him, I say, Joel, get in the post, the high post, back to the basket, and we're going to run the entire offense through you the entire night, because you are going to be able to just be a quarterback right there and hit open guys ready to take a corner three, or guys cutting. Like James Ennis had a really nice cut baseline when Ben Simmons attacked the lane at one point in the game last night. And I'm saying to myself, set up Joe right there, foul line extend it, high post extend it, and just operate your offense that way and just pick them apart.
Agreed. Like, that's another adjustment you can make. It's a bunch of adjustments that could have and should have been made. Unfortunately, we're not. And that was surprising to me. And I cost them that win. It wasn't that Toronto's tactic worked, and that's all that it came down to. No, the Sixers, Toronto went on a 10-0 run. You got to manufacture points, and that don't always come from play calling. That comes from getting second chance opportunities or getting to the foul line, things of that sort. The Sixers failed to do that.
Hey, Mark, last night watching the game, I just saw some poor communication at time defensively. It seems like Fred VanVleet was getting more wide-open layups, and he should have no business getting wide-open layups with his size and stature. I just thought sometimes in transition defense as well, with Joe and Ben, there was just miscommunications and dunks down the other end. What were your thoughts on the defensive effort out of the Sixers last night?
Well, I didn't think the defense was horrendous. I think Toronto did a real good job in transition. They really found a way to get either a wide open three or to get into the lane for easy layups. I was very impressed with them. I was incredibly impressed with Siakam. He just was, to me, was like, I thought Siakam last year was a year away from being a year away. I thought he was so valuable to that team, and not just VanVleet. VanVleet played incredible, and that transition was really clicking, and I think that's why they got that win.
What do you think I should say Kawhi Leonard's involvement with Siakam last year in the playoff run has to do with his success this season?
He was able to watch and see what happened and be on the court and contribute. And I really think he got the faith of an organization that put the ball in his hand. And, I really believe that's what happened there. And he learned, he got an opportunity, and he's successful.
Yeah, Mark, and towards the end of the game last night, and this is something that's brought up a lot with Brett Brown and this team, is his play calling and just their ability to get a bucket when there's 10 seconds on the clock, down 1, down 3, whatever it may be. And last night, Tobias Harris comes off that screen there. He gets a shot off, not the best shot, but Ben Simmons gets the rebound, and he throws up a half-court shot with more than 5 seconds left on the clock. I mean, that's not a big story in the game last night, but that's just basic stuff. That's high school stuff. I mean, that's stuff that we're running suicides for in high school the next day. I don't know if that's on the coach, if that's on Ben, but how do you interpret all of that?
Well, that was not on coach. That was strictly on Ben.
Yeah.
That was on Ben, and I'm going to call it a brain fart. Didn't know how much time was on the clock when he got the ball, and he thought it was like the time was running down. So, I'll give him a benefit of doubt on that. So with that being said, that was a bad time to have a brain fart.
I'll tell you what, Mark, I almost hypothesize that as him saying, I don't want to have to be the guy that pulls up for 3 and take this shot, so I'm just going to heave it so that I don't have to. I mean, I guess that's a cynic in you saying that's how little you think that he wants to take a regular shot from that distance, is that he just says, I'd rather just chuck it from here so I don't have to do it.
No, I don't think that's it. Not at all. Not at all. He didn't know how much. He didn't know it was 6 seconds.
Right. I'm just saying the cynic in you would say that, like, hey, I don't want to shoot, therefore I'm just going to chuck this thing up because I don't want to have to actually square up and shoot and show whatever. I don't know what he's holding back. He's shot 2 this year. He's made them both.
No, I think you're digging a little too deep on that one, buddy.
Oh.
I'm not going to go that far. I'm not going to go that far at all. He was just a brain for miscommunication and not a good time awareness situation.
Now, the other night, I think it was Paul Pierce who said that he thinks Ben is regressing, or that he's essentially stayed the same from his rookie season. In year 3, we're starting to get a lot of people calling saying, like, I'm sick of hearing people like Marc Jackson or like NBA people who cover the league telling me something, and I'm not seeing it from this guy. Like, this guy's a really good player, and he can't do X, Y, and Z. His points are down and a lot of stuff. Are you seeing a regression from Ben Simmons? Are you seeing a better Ben Simmons? Are you seeing a Ben Simmons who has kind of plateaued?
I'm saying that Ben Simmons has plateaued, to be honest. I don't see much progression from last year to this year, not as much as I'm willing. And I think the only thing he needs to improve on is his shooting. I think he's a tremendous defender. I think he's a very good passer. I just think his ability and the will to want to shoot the ball is holding him back. And until he does that, I question, is his ceiling met? I think it is until he learns, until he decides to do that.
How much of a factor is the philosophy of Brett Brown as far as his half-court offense? Because he runs a very loose, concept-based offense, which is just flow of the game. You know, if you see a spot, you can attack it. They run the least amount of pick and rolls, as we all know. But how does that impact Simmons and his development as a scorer on the offensive side of the ball? Forget shooting threes, but just his development as a scorer and wanting to attack and get to the foul line. How much does that offense have to do with it?
I think, Ben gets caught up in situations he's in no man's land. We also call it the dunker spot. That's something to be aware of. But he has to be put there because when he doesn't have the ball in his hand, he's not guarded. So you have to put him in a situation where he can catch and finish or catch an alley-oop. And that offense, Coach Brett Brown runs an offense that's catered to his personnel. And until Ben will shoot a jump shot, his offense is limited because there's only but so many places you can put Ben Simmons when he doesn't have the ball in his hand. That's how he's most valuable is when he does have the ball in his hand.
Talking with Marc Jackson, NBC Philadelphia, Sixers pre- and post-game live. The Sixers with a tough loss last night. I mean, they have not played well in that building. They did not get their best night from Joel Embiid and still really should have won that game. And obviously, Mark, that's like I'm not one of those guys who like gets too high or too low. Like they blew Miami out Saturday night. They're not that team. They're not the team that they were. You know, they're somewhere in between. But I want to ask you about that because I feel like a lot of people who have been with this team for years through the process and now every night sold out, it feels like the NBA is almost like get me to the playoffs. Like, and it seems that the league is now enabling it with all the load management, and now they're talking about this in-season tournament because it almost like the league is recognizing, man, our regular season, no one cares about it anymore. Is it frustrating as a guy who played in the league and covered the league to see what's happening, or are you embracing the possibility of some change? Are you noticing that the regular season is diminishing in its necessity?
Yes, absolutely. But why did it start diminishing? It started diminishing because the coaches didn't respect it. Not in a respectful way, not all the coaches. But when you resting guys who, because you feel as though they might be about to get tired, not that they're tired, but they might be about to get tired, you don't respect it, to me. And I know coaches are going to do what they think is best to get their team to the playoffs. So if you're saying that's the case, we just need to get the playoffs, then you don't respect it. So that means, you know, you're taking those games for granted. And I know it is all about the championship. It's not about what happens in the regular season. But with that being said, it has to be a better way. It has to be a better way. Whether that means cutting games or whatever it should be. But I like the memo that was sent out saying, okay, you want to rest them, that's fine. Or rest them at home. And I agree with that. Because a lot of people, guys go to towns once a year, twice a year if they're lucky. And people are paying big money. A lot of people are saving up to make these long trips to go to these games, and you resting guys.
Yeah.
That doesn't benefit. It doesn't benefit the consumer. It doesn't benefit the ticket holder.
I like Michael Jordan saying, hey, I pay my guys for 82 games. So if you want load management, don't get a paycheck for that game. How's that sound?
You know, hey, when it comes down to corporate, you know, these people who's paying these checks, the ESPNs, the TNTs, and the stuff like that, they paying these money, and then for your superstars to sit. You know, it's bad business. It's bad for business, period.
Yeah. Marc Jackson, NBC Philadelphia, and, of course, the Sixers right back in action tomorrow. They play Friday. They play Saturday. So a little busy week for the Sixers as, of course, you can see him on NBC Philly Sixers pre- and post-game live with Michael Barkan and Jimmy Lynam. Mark, happy Thanksgiving, buddy. We'll talk to you soon.
You as well. Have a great one, guys.